from the 29th of the second month of 1444, unity. 5 of Chin has found time for the inner space, but first, the order joined must be noble and beyond fear. The seeker will always be partly oblivious to the ways of Faery. Coeur de Dur applies mind and heart to physical nature, which works out the spiritual undercurrent of the circuit of the inquirer. And so what are your
well, I started thinking about spiritually doing the work. You got to putting the will into it. That's what starts the action. So unity could be the end result. And
of course, the title that I start with is
goal.
what I've considered the spread. So I came up with an idea of a spread, and then I worked things into that spread. And although I think a couple of them do come from the book.
Theme. Kind of like a theme.
So 5 of Chin has found time for the inner space, but first, the order joined must be noble and beyond fear. So there's this struggle here. And so you're in the sphere of Mars, but you're in the sphere of will. So you can't just will just how the other group wills. You have to actually consider, do I operate this group? Do I join the group in a different sense? Because you just don't want to join just to join something that's,
Right.
And see, so he's laying down some things and picking up other things and situating other things. So, operating the group, it's important to use groups, you could say.
Yeah, doing that work.
And the seeker will always be partly oblivious to the ways of Faery. Coeur de Dur applies mind and heart, physical nature, which works out the spiritual undercurrent of the circuit of the inquirer. And so instead of going off of a cliff, he's, right of the thing, the sacred path, the sacred journey. You got this, you're going into the thing, and there's all these beings, and these beings were with you even before you started the path. Some information was there, but you didn't notice it. You didn't learn it. You didn't act it out. But then you go and you have the experience. But you're within the system and without the system, and and just like that one card, you may have to make a pilgrimage or something like that. I don't know about publicly using the Book of Solomonic Magic symbols in it, although those have been around for a while, but you kind of but I do find that those ones work, for example. And but what do you have? You have this you have a spiral working together, and you have these arrows going out. So you have these different directions, and you're just operating in between the things of Ziminar there. But you talk about not crossing the planes. There's stuff you can do in dreams, but you better do it in dreams. I don't know if you've ever seen, there's I saw a South Park clip was recommended to me, and, by the computer. It wasn't working with that person, but, there's this, Butters was the character. And Butters was convinced by Cartman, which is either the worst or the best character in the show, combination of both, I guess. So Cartman convinced him that he was playing some sort of virtual reality game, and this was a headset. And he went around. He physically attacked his parents. He broke into cars, and it's like, I could almost feel my father on my fist when I hit him. So you do have to know that at the very least, like you can do a ritual, and there's been, honestly, I will admit, there's been a couple times I didn't know whether there was an earthquake physically, but there was an earthquake. But then again, there wasn't the danger. It wasn't like when I was a kid, and that earthquake that split apart that stadium, that broke that stadium, I remember across my living room in California, diagonally, that's the you know, that lumpy paint and that ceiling, it cracked entirely across the thing. And I was trying to tell I was saying, we got to get under the doorway. It's an earthquake. I was going around trying to get everybody under the thing, because, you know, I've learned in kindergarten that's what we're supposed to do or something.
Yeah, strongest point.
Something. Yeah, but
well, that.
So we have the I don't know how that was connected to anything, but you know, that's the direction this went. But yeah, you have these experiences, and like, but you know the difference between the planes, and different beings have their different roles. Just like I think that in previous generations, particularly when we didn't have an international age, that there'd be some roles. Like, you know, there's stuff that's not good for everybody. Like the animals that eat the garbage and all that stuff. Unless you actually need to do it for survival, you probably shouldn't, right? Like in Europe, how they used to cook people's dog, there'd be dog stew, and you'd eat the boars and stuff like this. But there was some serious health risk to doing that.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
And so, you know, with that, so we got the so times and places, different spiritual realms and stuff, they have their things. So the fire beings, you know, they would have their own roles that sometimes would differ from the ones the humans have. And like I for example, don't believe this thing where in ghouls. I don't believe in ghouls. The idea that there's a being that, without your permission, will hurt you and force you to do things and all sorts of stuff. What fairness is that? If some spirit can just creep up and make you do things. It's like, well, you can give control to the spirit, and where the spirit leads you may not be where you want to be. Either you're caught or you're doing something that you shouldn't. Whatever.
Right. It's
but
so funny.
you know, that sort of thing. And that's why I understand why this deck, without finding it again, I'll resort things later. You have that idea that the devil and Jesus are on the same card, because the church has kind of used Jesus as if it's the devil. And I understand why a lot of people I've talked to have got the idea that, is Jesus and Satan the same person? Because how they use it is like, what, it excuses people for being bad that don't want to make up for themselves, and all that other stuff. And if you don't believe the more ridiculous parts of the Bible, you're going to get either tortured in this life or the afterlife or something for it. You know, you kind of understand that. But so you found the devil card, and so the devil card is virtue and vice are upon the same things. And one of the interesting things in that card, that if one could say, look if you look around, so you look around and you find a dude with horns. So in the balls there, you got this, you got some dude with horns, and he moons you. He's the only one there that clearly is mooning you.
Yeah. Yep. There are some little people down here
And of course, the main thing that people get, money is the root of all evil. No, it's what you do with it. It's how you acquire it. That sort of your ideas about it. But you exalt. See, you notice he's exalting matter for itself. The atheist system, or the atheistic system, which is more likely the thing. Because I've talked to a lot of atheists so-called atheists over the years. None of them were atheists. None of them were atheists. They just didn't believe in some dude in the sky, or they didn't believe in church authority or something. It's not that they didn't believe that they had a soul or were a soul, or that there was there wasn't any spiritual existence out there, that other beings and stuff like this that people call gods and goddesses and whatnot. They just didn't, they just weren't conservative about things, and maybe they didn't, or maybe it wasn't they didn't want it to rule. They wanted to basically be a psychopath and do whatever they decided that for themselves, just purely on themselves, what things were, or whatever. Or maybe they were a sociopath. It's like, if I have a religion, then I'm not going to do whatever everybody else wants me to do. It's like, that can be pretty miserable too, right?
Yeah, that's building your life on the basis of somebody else.
but if you're just following whatever little twist of everything, and see, that's the other thing with the devil card. It's like, see, it's twists. It's twists. There's like
Yeah.
twist on things, you know, like that moon card. The moon card.
Right there.
The moon cards, you got your illusion and delusion. So the moon card mixes with the devil card probably more right there. Some people say it's the sun card, but the sun card, what you got? Yeah, the moon card sort of mixes with that because it's about dealing with the illusion and delusion. It's about maybe projecting things right into the right order. The devil card is about again, every card is kind of like the other cards.
Yeah, like they go together.
And so the better you can do that in the deck, but you don't want it to be all like, which card is which? You still got to know which card's which.
Right.
And if you have any closing thoughts as I approach closing the meeting.
The moon is just, I see the little ox. They each have a little ox.
Oh, just like the card we have here. So the hangman, the hangman card from the other program.
They either carry life or let life hang you. You know.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You're going in it to enjoy. You're being dragged in, and you know the monster. But then again, that's the thing. Like, but people can't look at that like, okay, there's ways of whatever, but in terms of victimization, it's not, oh, well, you know, it's your situation. You got to find your joy. No. Yeah, you just, you know, forget you know, that sort of stuff. You don't, but you do take your experience and try to, you know, work with it.
Yeah.
Just like I talked with that seeing the dead thing. You can work with your trauma, but not. Yeah. But don't just actively bring up your thoughts of your trauma, or don't do that weird thing that some Tibetan monks do, that they try to imagine their parents together conceiving them, and it's like, oh, dude, no wonder why you had to go off on your own.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, the you know, to close the series, of course, the closing thought, I guess, is that so the Celtic ethic, I think it's something along the lines of, you know, living the fullness of life, and that spirituality is completely connected. There's no separation, none of this take off the natural man and stuff. It's like trying to get back into it.
And the connections can bring the unity. Maybe that's the
tarot deck, of course. The tarot deck is, of course, supposed to be a summary. It's supposed to be a summary of all of existence and your way of dealing with it. So that's why tarot's so popular. It's not like, now some people will have different reactions and all that to one deck versus another, and I do think forget even if this had gone down in price, which doesn't happen nowadays since it came out. This still would be one of the handful of decks that I would have, because it just addresses so much mythologically to me that, as you can see, be working in all that other, oh, here are the archetypes of this, that, and the other. Some of it's listed, some of it is other information I had. So it's not all in the chat book or something. It's just operating that same platform.
Awesome.
But yeah, you know, you categorize things. Now, I would like, for example, to see people work it out, and maybe at some point I'll do this. I'll work it out and have 30 fronts, so I can have the cube of space with the corners. I can have the corners on the cube of space, you know, because and then you got the 7 planets with the as Saturn and Earth. But if you have more letters, then you can separate it, right? And so maybe you would have even 31 with the Hamza, you could say that, but but then you have the edges of the cube. So the edges of the cube would be the 12 zodiac signs. So you have the 7 planets, the 3 mother letters, and forming, combining for that. And So you
Cool.
have this mythological method of things. Because a lot of alphabets do that. Like if you have 24 trump cards, you're going to talk through the main runes. Or maybe you're going to have 16 or some other number of runes that you've used. And then when you combine the cards, if you form a word, or you have a time of year or something like this that you associate it with. That's why I like to do the calendar for the most part, because then you can immediately associate, oh, any day I can arrange 7 cards, or any day.
Thank you. That's given me an idea for some a little bit of work here.
And of course, there's stories for every card, and the pips are the stations. The pips are the stations. The others are the states. The trumps are the states. The trumps are the stations, and the states that a person goes through are the pips. And the court cards are the characteristics, the aspects of the character are the different characters. The aces are, the building blocks of life, you could say. And yeah, and there's other stuff. It's just that's probably what I articulate quicker.
Oh, thank you. I've got a lot of ideas just now.